views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hola everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chari Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll discuss the new deadline for the 2020 census, along with the different ways to respond to the population count. After that, we'll continue our conversation of the 2020 census with the United Way of New York City representative, as we discuss the impact the census will have on communities. Then we'll hear about YVote, an organization pushing for young people to make a difference by going to the ballots. And we'll also learn about a developing visual art series entitled COVID Eyes, dedicated to the first responders during the pandemic. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on singer, songwriter, and accordionist Gregorio Uribe, who performs for us desde Colombia at the end of the show. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way. Now we are officially open. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online. That is, tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, you can follow moi on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So, every 10 years, the United States counts its residents through the census, and it helps determine how money is allocated into communities. The deadline is quickly approaching, and now more than ever, people are being encouraged to complete their census forms. And joining us to tell us more about the importance of filling out the census forms is we welcome New York City 2020 Census Director, Julie Menon. Hi, Julie.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being here, and hopefully you can clear some matters up for us, because
Sure.
It's like a stop and go situation with the deadline, the extension, the deadline. And let's just talk about why it's so important that these numbers be allocated within the communities.
So filling out the census is one of the most important things that New Yorkers can do. We're literally fighting for our fair share of over $1.5 trillion that Congress allocates each and every year. These funding allocations are going to cover the next 10 years because the census only occurs once every 10 years. So it's everything for funding for our public schools, our public housing, our health care, our senior centers, roads, tunnels, bridges, Head Start programs, over 300 different programs that New Yorkers really depend on. For every New York household that doesn't complete the census, it's $7,000 that is lost to New York City. And basically that money goes to other states.
So do you happen to know why it's a 10-year process, why it's done every 10 years?
So it's embedded in the Constitution. So this is something that is a constitutional obligation to do a count of every person living in the United States. And it's really for two reasons. One is a funding reason, which I mentioned, but the second, equally important reason is for congressional apportionment. Congressional seats are drawn based on census numbers. So in the mid-1950s, we had 45 members of Congress in the New York State delegation. Today, we have 27. In an undercount, we could have 25 members of Congress. And that really is about power, money, and respect, because it goes to the heart of the matter of making sure that we have the seats in Congress, making sure the Electoral College that we have those seats, so that determines the presidential election. This really, really matters. And then another reason why census data is important is, for example, the New York City Health Department looks at census data when they're making decisions. So when there was a measles outbreak last year in parts of the city, the New York City Health Department looked at that census data and said, okay, we need to order this many vaccines for this many children in these locations. Hopefully one day there'll be a vaccine for COVID. This is not a time for New Yorkers to be invisible. You want to stand up and you want to be counted.
So just to ease anyone who may have concerns with filling out their form, and based on the fact that you're saying that the New York City Health Department would look at the census counts in order to allocate certain numbers, people's information is kept private, right? So let's just be clear for those who are concerned with their immigration status, that it's very important that every individual be counted, and that is not going to be looked into further.
Well, that's exactly right. I wear two hats in the administration. I also have a senior role at the New York City Law Department. We were a plaintiff on the citizenship case, the case where President Trump tried illegally to add a question to the census that hadn't been on in 70 years, asking, are you a U.S. citizen? And we, along with the New York Attorney General and a broad coalition, fought that back and won at the Supreme Court. So I mention that because there is no citizenship question on the census, none. So there is nothing to fear about the census. In addition, Title 13 of the U.S. Code protects the confidentiality of the census and in fact imposes a 5-year prison sentence, up to $250,000 fine on any census employee who shares that data. And Title 13 has been sacrosanct. It has not been broken since its inception.
And so this year they made it even easier, right? You're able to fill it out online, and also for just, again, this is just for anybody who's concerned about just identifying themselves or identifying how many people reside in one apartment, and none of that really matters.
It's completely confidential. The information is not shared with the city of New York. It's not shared with landlords. It's not shared with anyone. But it matters so much to fill the census out. Why would we want to leave $7,000 per household on the table? Why would we want a situation, particularly after COVID, when our New York City economy is in shambles? Why would we leave that money on the table? Why would we hurt our children, our public schools, our seniors, healthcare? All of this matters. And basically, for anyone who says, you know what, I'm not going to be bothered with the census, all you're doing is you're taking that funding that's supposed to be yours and supposed to be your communities and basically sending it to another state. It's unconscionable. We have to get every New Yorker counted. Right now, we're at 60.8% as a city. The Bronx is at 61.6%. So look, we have a long way to go. The census deadline is fast approaching. We need every New Yorker to take the 10 minutes it takes to answer these 10 questions that affect our future for the next 10 years.
That's it, and that's all it takes is 10 minutes. And so before we go, I mean, there's been this controversy with the deadline. Originally, it was going to be October 31st, then they're saying October 5th. Where are we now?
So it's basically in the court. So the deadline was supposed to be October 31st. And then President Trump abruptly announced that he was going to cut it short to September 30th. Why? Because he intentionally wants to undercount immigrant communities and communities of color, because it's largely immigrant communities and communities of color which tend to have lower response rates in most cities across the country. So this is a real attempt to try to disenfranchise largely Democratic cities and move the congressional apportionment largely to red Republican areas across the country. We're New Yorkers. We're not going to be fooled by this. We're not going to be played. We're going to stand up and we're going to be counted. So this is in the courts right now. A lower court in California ruled that the census deadline is going to be extended to October 31st. The Census Bureau is not listening to that, and they're again saying they're going to cut it short, this time to October 5th. It's back in the court. So the short answer is we don't know yet. Let's assume the worst case is October 5th. Get counted. Stand up and get counted. Go to my2020census.gov take the 10 minutes to fill this out for yourself and your family.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for enforcing that. This is a time for us to be united, and that is one of the many ways that your voice will be counted. Thank you, Julie, for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
And once again, you guys, make sure you fill out your census form today. Go to my2020census.gov. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear from one of the organizations that is mobilizing people to fill out their census. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., and I'm making sure that the Bronx counts is my priority. That's why I'm urging everyone to fill out the 2020 census. The 2020 census is important because it would allow for the federal government to determine how much money and resources the Bronx is going to need for the next 10 years around healthcare, education, housing, roads, representation, and so many other things. Now let's all get together and make the Bronx count.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. United Way of New York City is a nonprofit organization dedicated to building opportunities to help the lives of low-income New Yorkers. This year, the organization has made its mission to encourage people to get counted for this year's census. Joining us to discuss the importance of the census and the major impact it will have on our communities, please welcome United Way of New York City Vice President of Strengthen New York City, Lumeria Alawude El. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just previously had on the director of the New York City Census, and we discussed the importance of filling out your census form. And what I would like to open up with is the United Way of New York City's purpose and how you determine what I guess topics become a priority in mobilizing and or galvanizing the community.
Thank you. So United Way of New York City is really focused on supporting neighborhoods of concentrated poverty to reach self-sufficiency. We do that in a variety of ways, really focusing on education, income, which really is around benefits access and really supporting people's reach towards self-sufficiency and not relying on government supports to meet their basic needs, and also health. And a lot of our health work is really centered in the space around emergency food supports and making sure that there is solid nutrition within those emergency food supports. So food pantries, soup kitchens, community farms, and other nutrition programs to support families and individuals within neighborhoods of concentrated poverty. Our work is really rooted in self-sufficiency, and so making sure that families and individuals have what they need to not rely on government supports, but also understanding that there is a process to get there. And United Way is really there to fill in the gaps and really support families through that process.
So help me understand identifying the Strengthen New York City within United Way. Is that a sector within United Way?
Sure. So Strengthen New York City is a unit within United Way's Community Impact Department. Our Community Impact Department consists of our education unit, our food and benefits access unit, and then Strengthen NYC, which really encompasses our community building, our capacity building, and volunteerism is really a part of our capacity building as well. We sit at the intersection, United Way of New York City really sits at the intersection of government, community, and nonprofit or in the nonprofit sector. And so we see ourselves as a convener, bring people together around specific issues, working with community partners to identify what's important and needed within community, and then coming up with solutions to solve for them. What we appreciate is that every community-based organization has what they need to get the job done. And that's where our community building and capacity building work comes into play. We also appreciate that government sometimes needs community support to get things in motion. The census is a really good example of government saying this is something that's important, but we know in certain communities, the participation rate has been really low. And so what do we need to do to activate, to educate, to mobilize individuals in that community to participate in a way that government really needs us to participate?
So you also have partnerships with like other non-for-profit organizations, right? So is that how you do it? Like, is there an alliance that kind of convenes at United Way? Like, how does that work? What is that system? And how does a non-for-profit become part of this? Would it be Strengthen NYC or would it be the United Way?
So it's not a club, so to speak. The way we work is we really are rooted in the goal. So let's say, for example, the census as a goal, right? The census is something that we know we want to achieve a certain self-response rate or a certain response rate within the city. We look at our community-based network, who are the community-based organizations that are in our space around education, income, and health, and also get a sense from them on who else thinks that this census is important, who else wants to do work in their community to activate and mobilize your community members, your constituents around educating themselves around the census and completing the census and making sure that collectively we get this done. Those who raise their hand are invited to be a part of the network. Those who want to actually do the work are invited to be part of the network. So it is open to all who are interested. We generally take a community-based approach. So we might look at a specific community. Let's say it's the South Bronx. Let's say it's Mott Haven specifically within the South Bronx. We look at that community. We do develop a community asset map so that we understand who the players are in the community, who's doing work, who are the community stakeholders, who are the active parents. And because it's not just community-based organizations, we understand that community-based organizations are a sector and a key important part of the fabric of the community, but also the people who live there might do a lot of work.
Got it.
And so we want to make sure that we are inviting all community stakeholders to the table to understand this is what the vision is and the mission of what our work is, but also to learn from them, is this right? Is this important?
It is important. And we just discussed previously in the previous segment how only 60.8% of New York City is filled out, or accounted for. And so before we go, just share with everyone how you guys have been mobilizing the not-for-profit or certain communities to on the importance of filling it out. I mean, it's accessible online for those who may not be online savvy. Are there kiosk, or are you doing any events outdoors to assist in this process? How is that coming out?
So United Way has done some grant management in partnership with the New York City Complete Counts Fund to mobilize, educate, and work with community-based organizations in communities that are considered hard to count communities. And what we've done is work with them. Let's recognize that the census launched on March 12th. The very next day, the city started to shut down due to the COVID pandemic. We work with community-based organizations to pivot their plans, which were 100% in-person community engagement plans, to an online platform. And so people got really creative around how they got the word out to their communities without being able to come in contact with them in person. And since some of those shutdowns have been lifted, people have been able to do a little more in the engagement front. We've been activating our emergency food pantries and even developed a toolkit to share with them so that as people from the community, individuals and families from the community come to access these essential services, they also get information on why the census is important, information on how they can complete it. You can complete it on your phone. You can call to complete it. There are multiple languages. You can get it done on your phone. And some of these food pantries even have iPads on site where people can complete their census while they're there. We've also
Right.
worked with the Robin Hood Foundation in this last month of the census, and it's been extended to October 5th as of today, to convene community-based organizations that are still doing work and really provide updated weekly self-response rate information, let them know which census tracts within hard-to-count neighborhoods need some special attention so that they can really focus their on-the-ground efforts. What we've heard from many of our community-based organizations is that the best way to get people to complete the census is to meet them where they are. And so they are going to the hot spots within the communities, community hubs, we call them, so that they can come with the iPads, with the technology, to not only educate individuals on why completing the census is important, but also give them the tools that they need at that moment to actually complete it as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for bringing it to our viewers. Thank you for leading the way and for making sure that we are all counted. You guys, once again, fill out your census forms. Thank you for being with us, Lumiria Aluwade El of the New York City, the United Way, New York City, and Strengthen New York City, that is. And you guys, once again, be sure to fill out the census at my2020census.gov. And for more information on United Way of New York City, you can visit unitedwaynyc.org. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll discuss the importance of voting for this year's presidential election. Don't go anywhere.
It looks bleak. It feels bleak. But the city isn't shut down because our public services keep working. In spite of, and in the face of, the dangers, we can count on them. And to keep them working and funded now and in the future, we need to be counted. Self-respond now to the 2020 census at my2020census.gov.
Welcome back. The presidential election is quickly approaching, and our next guests are all about encouraging young people to vote. Through civic engagement, YVote is teaching young people to channel their passions and beliefs into positive civic action beyond the ballot. We welcome today YVote co-founder and director Sanda Balaban, along with facilitator and social media director Yesenia Burgos. Hello, ladies, and welcome.
Hi, Rhina.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having us on.
Oh my gosh, this is so inspirational and just really sends me and hopefully our viewers a sense of hope, you know, after this past week's debate, if that's what we're calling it. And let's talk about how you even formed this organization and most importantly, what it entails within the age bracket and the conversations that are being had, because I'm really excited about the fact that there's teenagers having conversations about making sure their voices are heard and that they matter.
Thank you for that question. And there are. I mean, in fact, teenagers are the hope for the future and for the generational change that we need in politics and everything else. And the founding of YVote really goes back to the 2016 election, which was a wake-up call for many of us. And in the wake of trying to figure out what had and hadn't happened in that election, we went into deep analysis, data analysis, and discovered the rates of youth voting, which many of your viewers may know are not where we want them to be or anywhere close. And so in 2016, even before we had the results of the 2016 turnout, I was looking at the voter turnout from the 2014 midterms, and in which just 14% of 18 and 19-year-olds voted. And when you have something where 86% of young people aren't voting, we have a crisis in democracy, and we have an opportunity to say what's going on and what's not going on. And also, when you have more people voting than not voting than are, the question of why vote came to mind, right? If you have just 14% of young people voting, why vote? And so we wanted to engage in an inquiry-based process with young people to really look at that. You know, what causes you to lean in and vote, what causes you to opt out and not vote, and are there ways that we could create some of those on-ramps to positive civic engagement?
And then, of course, you put young individuals in lead positions, such as Yesenia, who is a facilitator and the social media director, which is a whole nother animal. Say that again?
And a founding member of YVote.
And a founding member. That's lovely. That is wonderful. So Yesenia, let's talk about the events that are coming up and the role that you've been playing in making sure that you galvanize your generation.
Of course. As a founding member, I really wasn't into politics at all. So YVote really struck that for me. And just having the ability to go ahead and facilitate a group of kids that were like me, that were not really into politics. Some are, but a lot of them are not. And then having that space for them, having that space of civic engagement is important in order for them to see the value of voting and the value of of doing your civic duty when you can, even outside of the ballot box, because a lot of our youth can't vote right now, but what they can do is take other actions. So this week we're going to have on Saturday, October 3rd, we invite you to our social cinema club. So if you want to, you can follow us on Instagram, YVote New York. It's Y, like the letter Y, and then vote, and then New York. NY, not New York, sorry. And then Sunday, we have October 4th, our YVote workshop with the Bronx. We're doing it through Zoom, so you can sign up for that too. That's at 4:30 to 6 p.m. And Monday through Friday, October 5th to October 9th, you'll see me live on our Instagram page, and I will be talking about how to register to vote and any questions people have about registering or ordering the absentee ballots.
I'm excited just to hear you speak this way. I really am. I'm like, oh my God, there's hope. God, continue. I'm sorry.
Well,
go ahead.
Thank you.
Like, there's so many barriers to understanding this. So, you know, part of Yessie's work is to demystify and invite people to be part of the process and to think about what are all the things that get in the way, and how, especially this year, you know, and how can we sort of do the weed whacking to make sure that, you know, you can have a clear path.
Well, because the truth is politics is a language that could be intimidating, right? But you need to be in the conversation to learn about it. So how many of you are there all together right now that are part of YVote?
Well, I will also say politics can be intimidating, but power is inviting. And we contextualize a lot of our work around individual and collective power, and that, you know, drawing the connection between voting and voice and voting. And that is very appealing to young people. And so what we find is that, you know, voting is just often a black box, and you don't necessarily see the immediate impact of individual action. But when young people recognize that they are part of the largest, most diverse, most progressive generation that we've had, but are in effect leaving collective power on the table as a result of turning out in much lower numbers than seniors, like that really, you know, like that's energizing, right? Like that we can create change, you know, if young people turn out in numbers, you know, close to commensurate with seniors. So we have right now, like this past summer, we worked with 120 young people from across 70 high schools in New York, all 5 boroughs, a lot of great students from the Bronx. But beyond that 120 in YVote, each of that, we believe very strongly in the multiplier effect of how do each of our, you know, hundreds of young people reach thousands of other young people through that peer-to-peer contact. So each of them was really tasked with being a civic spark plug, being a voting ambassador in their school and community, and being equipped to have those conversations both in person and through social media, through initiatives that Yessie leads, and through creating scorecards to really assess elected officials and make sense of this like swirl, this overwhelming swirl of things around us, particularly given the level of dysfunction, you know, in the political sphere today, to recognize that that doesn't have to be the case, and that they are capable of creating transformative change.
Yeah, and it's important. It's important. It's important for them to feel invited and to feel welcomed, and also to just feel comfortable with like-minded individuals. And so I want to thank you both for being here with us today, and thank you, Yesenia, for giving us the schedule. Were you able to complete the schedule?
I wasn't. We got too excited. But there was just one more event I wanted to talk about beyond the live. The live will be at 7 to 7:15. If it runs a little longer, it will. Don't worry about it. And then Tuesday, October 6th, we're teaming up with a lot of other organizations to do Finding Your Civic Voice event, and that will be on at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 6th. You can follow us on Instagram and find out more.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Sandra, show us your shirt as I close us out.
Oh, yes.
Woo! That's
Make
right.
them listen. Vote.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for being here once again. For more on YVote and their upcoming events, please make sure to follow the organization's Instagram at YVoteNY. And don't forget, wear your mask.
Keep yourself safe as we keep our democracy safe.
Nice. I like. Welcome back. Our next guest is a visual artist from New York who decided to create some artwork during the pandemic entitled COVID Eyes. So COVID Eyes pays homage to the hardworking first responders during the pandemic. And joining us to tell us more about his developing art series, we welcome artist Ernesto Camacho. Hi, Ernesto.
How are you, Rhina? How's everything going?
I'm good. I mean, considering the circumstances, but I must say it's always quite lovely to just revisit certain guests who have been on our show on various occasions in studio, and then get a sense of how they're living, right? Because our homes have become our backdrops.
Absolutely. Our little nooks.
Yeah, well, you know, and I didn't expect anything less than to see visual arts and art supplies, which is everything that we're seeing in your background. But what's lovely is this new art series that you've developed. I mean, we've known you to always pretty much focus more on ballet dancers. And I know you had something that you did with the Bronx Brewery, and the fact that you've chosen to just dive into the essence of what first responders may look like from the perspective of either being in the hospital or being at your last days, is really quite lovely. And I would love for you to share with us what I guess has been your driving force in just the details of the images that we're going to be looking at.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a lot of friends who are first responders, and you don't appreciate what you have until things like this happen. And when COVID, hit home and you began hearing their stories, it's like, wow, they're in a world, we're suffering in one way, but they see things every single day that's they're bringing home and will forever change their lives.
Right. I mean, they're there. They're actually in the presence of these people who unfortunately did not make it through. And I know I read somewhere that one of the things that you really wanted to convey in the eyes of this series is that some of these people were the last people who the ones who transitioned saw. Those were the last eyes and or the last person that was by their bedsides because of the unfortunate situation of people not being able to be with their loved ones as they transitioned on.
Exactly, yeah. that's what struck me. A group of us met with a lot of these friends of ours, and when they told us their stories, that's the one thing that hit us was their eyes. As soon as you saw their eyes said the whole story. And if I talk too much, we're gonna get. But that's what motivated me. Is like I got to do something. And then a friend of mine, his mother works at Albert Einstein, and she's the secretary to the head nurse in the ER. And the New York Times made a video called "Heartache in the Hot Zone." Once I saw that, that was it. I gotta go to the canvas and start putting this, so that people could see it.
So, these paintings are going to really have a long life from this day on, from the time that you've created them. Before we go, I just want to share with our audience. I know you have 2 in the making. You're creating a series. Like, what are you hoping to create in a storyline and or a message that is documenting this particular time period?
Yeah, sometimes because of these situations that we're under right now, we focus on ourselves so much, but we're a community, and the people who are taking care of us, who are there, yeah, they get paid, it's their job, but they're humans and they hurt, and they're giving of themselves to a point where when we're not there, they're the ones who our loved ones are seeing for the last time sometimes.
And so this is your way of saying thank you to them?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. We notice you. We know what's going on. Just please be there for us, and because there's so many types of different first responders. So at the end of the day, we want to just let them know thank you, and we feel your pain as well.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And thank you for bringing it here on our show, Ernesto. So where do you foresee this exhibition going up, or am I moving too quick?
I just started this about 2 weeks ago, and I'm so happy that you and Leslie, brought it up, because I don't know where it's going to go. I hope that maybe it's exhibited somewhere that people could benefit. It would be nice if someone could finance, like, making prints of these to benefit their families or what have you.
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions.
Well, I'm glad you brought it here, and I'm going to leave everyone with this as we end this segment. I think it's a wonderful concept to live in the hospitals, so that they themselves can acknowledge themselves and how they're perceived from the eyes of an artist who's reaching into their souls, because that's what your images convey, is the soul that lives within each individual. And
correct.
Thank you for bringing it here, and I look forward to the whole collection. So we'll probably have to have you on when you're done with that, however many that may be.
I'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us, Ernesto. All right, don't go anywhere. All right, you guys, once again, for more on Ernesto Camacho's artwork, you can visit ErnestoCamacho.com. All right, don't go anywhere, because Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
We begin our look at sports on the baseball diamond, where the Bronx Bombers did not win the American League East, but they did clinch a postseason berth, which of course is a good thing. They draw Cleveland in the opening round, while across town the Mets, they failed to make the playoffs, even with 8 teams advancing. The New York Yankees lost 6 of their last 8 regular season games. They still limp into the wild card round as the 5th seed in the first 16-team expanded playoffs in Major League Baseball history. Among the few bright spots for the Yankees, leadoff hitter DJ LeMahieu. He caps the season with the best batting average in the majors at .364, the batting champ. By winning the American League batting title, LeMahieu becomes only the fourth player in Yankees history to lead the majors in batting average, joining Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and Lou Gehrig. It is LeMahieu's second career batting title. He won one with the Colorado Rockies in 2016 and becomes just the second player in Major League Baseball history to win the batting title in both leagues.
It's pretty cool. I don't think it's really sank in yet, but it's definitely it's really cool. I wish it was over 162 games. I wish there was fans in the stands, but it is what it is, and I'm definitely proud of it.
We've got the batting champ and the home run champ to boot. Luke Voit went hitless Sunday in the regular season finale, but his 22 dingers were the most in this pandemic-shortened 60-game season. LeMahieu and Voit became the first pair of teammates to lead the majors in batting average and home runs since Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews for the 1959 Braves. Pretty good company there. A couple of Hall of Famers. Here's Luke.
It was cool to hear from Pat Maroon, who got his second title in a row in the NHL. Nick Swisher, Ryan Rucco, just random people, a lot of family back home, friends. So it is super cool. Obviously, something to definitely take home in the off season, but I'm more worried about October and these next couple of games, and worried about beating the Indians.
The four faves in the American League might very well be Tampa Bay, Minnesota, the Chicago White Sox, and the Yanks. In the National League, probably the LA Dodgers are pretty good, right? St. Louis, Atlanta, and then, of course, maybe the Cubs or San Diego Padres. It's pretty open in the NL. Still hard to believe that the talented Mets came up just short. Ace Jacob deGrom provided some perspective there.
There's a lot of disappointment. We were excited coming into this year. Looking forward to playing a full season, and then once that kind of got shut down and the summer started up, we were excited for that. Unfortunately, we didn't make it. We let some games get away, including today. I got to do a better job today. These guys went out there and put up runs for me, and I couldn't put up zeros for them. So, today is very frustrating for me.
Going to blame COVID-19 for the terribleness that is the New York Giants and New York Jets. You did not hear my season preview prediction. Scrap it from the record. It never happened. The G-Men are 0-3 and just lost 36-9 to the San Francisco 49er backups. Saquon Barkley is out for the season with a torn ACL. New head coach Joe Judge isn't making excuses, but Big Blue hasn't been big at all the last 2 weeks after letting the opener slip through their fingertips.
Yeah, look, for us it's game by game, and right now I'm really just emphasizing on our team just weekly improvement, starting with fundamentals and execution. That's really it. We got to focus on what we're doing day by day to really take care of our own jobs and make sure that we're improving as a unit and as a team, and then all the other things will start taking care of themselves.
Giants look to leap into the win column Sunday against the LA Rams. Meanwhile, speaking of head coaches, Adam Gase is on the hot seat with gangrene. Perhaps the only team worse than the Giants and the Big Apple is the Jets. They also start 0-3 after coming off a 36-7 defeat to the Indianapolis Colts before last night's home matchup with Denver. Rumor has it that Gase still has the support of the players. We'll see for how long. We go inside the locker room for more.
I think guys are trying to figure out the little details of where are we going wrong? How can we fix this? I like the fact that guys are looking for solutions instead of just bitching and complaining and kind of not really working in the right direction. I feel like our guys are looking for the right things, looking for the solutions to the problems.
Outside of the Yanks, tough week for Big Apple sports. It's the end of an era. The Broadway Blue Shirts have bought out King Henrik Lundqvist's final year of his contract. The news marks the end of the star goaltender's 15-year career in New York. We shift gears literally. In motorsport, Fabio Cordaro has regained the lead in the MotoGP championship. He is the only rider to win multiple races this season. They are off this weekend in MotoGP, but the best motorcycle riders in the world return the following weekend for the French GP. That's when our BronxNet cameras will be in Indianapolis for the Moto America race, the MotoGP equivalent here stateside. Excited to see that action in the racing capital of the world. Speaking of Indy, IndyCar is home this weekend for the Harvest GP, first time for the series since the 500. We caught up with some of the drivers to ask them about the differences of running a race in Indy this time of year. This weekend we'll also see a return of fans to IMS, albeit at less than full capacity during the pandemic.
I think it's going to be fantastic to have up to 10,000 fans on each day. You know, it's definitely been a different dynamic, I think, for a lot of us this season, and you know, especially the Indianapolis 500 that ran without fans. You know, so we welcome the fans greatly, and hopefully the weather cooperates and we can have a fantastic weekend. But yeah, just for us personally, just you know, hopefully we have a smooth weekend and one that we can fight for a win.
Meantime, in NASCAR, the second round of the 2020 Cup Series playoffs continues on Sunday at the Talladega Superspeedway. Kurt Busch earned his first win of the season last Sunday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in an overtime finish, advancing him into the round of 8. Busch, who entered the round of 12 last in playoff standings, ended a 46-race winless streak and also earned his first Cup win at his home track after 21 previous attempts at Las Vegas. Impressive. Time for some quick hitters from around the world of sports. The pandemic delayed the final outcome of the National Hockey League season. We finally have our Stanley Cup champion. The Tampa Bay Lightning bested the Dallas Stars 4-2 to earn their second franchise championship. They take home the cup in the pandemic bubble. Over in the association, we have our final two teams standing in the National Basketball Association bubble in Orlando, Florida. The LA Lakers and the surprising Miami Heat, the lowest seed since the New York Knicks in 1999 to reach the championship. The NBA moves closer itself to crowning a king. Question is, will it be King James and the highly motivated Lakers after the tragic passing of star Kobe Bryant in January, or the out-of-nowhere Heat, who look like a team on the rise thanks to a talented young core? My thoughts on the NBA Finals in the C List. The Miami Heat are back in the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014, when LeBron James, their opponent in this series, was last in a Heat uniform. Nice storyline there. I would say this is a win-win for the league and most NBA enthusiasts, no matter the outcome. The Lakers, of course, have LeBron searching for another ring with the backdrop of doing it for Kobe. It's also the resurgence of an NBA franchise that has long been at the top of the heap, but not really since Kobe left. Still, the Lakers should easily win. They have LeBron and Anthony Davis. But if the pandemic and these wacky sports startups have taught us anything, all bets are truly off right now. That's why I'm taking Miami, even if they are the biggest underdog, no matter what Jimmy Butler says about it. The Heat have certainly embraced the lack of expectations placed upon them all season long and have thrived. Miami entered the season with 75-1 odds to win the title. The only team to come close, you ask? The 2002 New Jersey Nets, who were 60-1 long shots before reaching the finals and being swept by the three-peat Lakers of Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. Over the past 30 years, no other team has been a longer shot than 30-1 to make the finals, with the 28-1 Golden State Warriors in 2015 being the longest shot to win the title. None of that matters much to Butler, who says both teams are good and pretty evenly matched too. Heat in 7. That's your sports. I'm Bobby C.
Welcome back. Our last guest is a singer, songwriter, and accordionist from Colombia. He's an alumni from Berklee College of Music, and he has, well, graced the stages of places such as Carnegie Hall, Madison Square Garden, and more. He's worked with Latin music stars such as Rubén Blades and Mark Anthony, and that's just to name a few. And throughout the years, he's been able to make a name for himself in the Latin music scene. Joining us to tell us about his latest project, we welcome desde Colombia, Gregorio Uribe. Hello.
Muchas gracias, Rina. So good to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and big hugs to everybody in New York. I miss the vibe. I miss the live music scene. I hope we can all see each other again soon.
Yeah, I know. But the beauty of technology is that we're able to share you with our viewers here. Well, it's worldwide at this point because it's going to be online. However, you know, we're primarily a Bronx channel. And because you're in Colombia and because of our technology, we're able to at least share your talents with our viewers. So that's the beauty of the technology that we have in place. But I wanted to know.
Full.
Huh?
Glass half full, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the way we got to look at things nowadays, because if not, we'll get lost in the abyss.
I'm there with you.
Yeah, and so I wanted to ask that you're in Colombia now, but Colombia isn't where you reside year round, right?
Yeah, I've been for many years. I've been between Colombia and New York. I love that combination of New York is really where I forged my career, where I started my big band, but also Colombia is where I have my roots and where I get inspired in, especially in the traditional styles of music. So I love having that combination. Currently, I've been spending more time here because obviously due to the COVID, the traveling is just it's not a good or easy time for that. But yeah, I love the combination of both worlds.
So basically, you were in Colombia when COVID hit, and now you're permanently in Colombia.
Exactly. I'm here until well, you know, until we can start traveling back again.
But I also understand that you just brought new life into the world.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So that's another big reason to kind of stay. It kind of works well for me to be able to stay put for a little bit. We're very lucky. Me and my girlfriend, who's an Argentinian singer-songwriter, Solange Prat. We had our first kid, Leonardo, and well, this is actually kind of his room / music room. So a lot of music for him, you know, from the beginning.
That's lovely. He's born a musician. Ja, it's done.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations. And so let's talk about Damascus, right? That's the new single that you're going to be giving a taste of later. But also, I did want to mention that in viewing it, I noticed that you had these amazing graphics attached to the music, and it's a wonderful dynamic in storytelling. Can you elaborate a little further on like the purpose behind I don't know, it kind of loans itself to looking like a mandala, what is the word I'm looking for?
Mandala.
A mandala. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And almost like an alchemist in search of something, but I know it's supposed to be you.
Oh, I love that. I think you're right on point. Well, the first thing is that I basically just got lucky that I found a great illustrator. His name is Juan Vargas, and he had done the cover for my last single, and so I sent him this one. And when I was looking at his work on Instagram, I was very inspired that he had a lot of things that were like from a book of Jung and sort of psychoanalysts or psychotherapy, right, or some like sort of magical and some like symbols of alchemy and that kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh, this guy is got a very interesting and original point of view. So when I sent him this and I told him a little bit about what the story was behind the song and all of that, when he sent it to me, I really basically didn't have to ask for any changes, which is not common. So I think he basically, you know, grabbed the image of myself, of I think of a picture that I sent him, and then he just created this magical imaginary landscape And there's this sort of, I think the position that he's putting me is in the position of like awe of what's happening, right? Of like discovering some light. And I love how abstract it is. And you're saying, you know, it could be like, it's like a pyramid, but maybe like a mandala, but maybe, I don't know, like something, it gives you an
It's its
idea of
own
something
experience.
beyond.
It's its own experience, and the
Maybe like,
music attached to it really takes you on a really lovely trip of wonder.
I agree. Well, yeah, thank you. I got very lucky, and we can't wait to do more work with Juan, because he's fantastic.
Well, it's nice that we mentioned him, and what's lovely is that we're going to get our own exclusive taste of your new single, right? Before we take the break, you want to share with everyone what we're going to be presenting?
Sure. So I want to give you guys a little private serenade, an intimate version of Damascus. I wish and I hope that the song works. You know, when you actually hear the track, you know, there's a lot of percussion, it's very danceable, but I also love the idea that hopefully it also works with just, you know, accordion and myself, and just the minimalistic version where it's like all about the lyrics and the melody and the accordion. So that's what you're gonna hear.
Beautiful. Oh, we're looking forward to that. You guys, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, Gregorio Uribe, he's going to perform an acoustic, live, intimate version of his new single, Damascus. Don't go anywhere. Here now to perform an acoustic version of Damascus desde Colombia, please welcome Gregorio Uribe.
Me han dicho que cuando la noche es más oscura es porque muy pronto viene el amanecer. Me han dicho que el precio puede ser la locura cuando se anda siempre en busca de un renacer. Llevo en mi blasón odio y vanidad, frío bajo el sol, una eternidad, pero más allá, ¿dónde está el dolor? Busco sin saber una redención. Voy de camino a Damasco, en medio de la carretera. Voy despacito esperando a ver qué se me revela. Me han dicho que cuando se prueba la ambrosía, hasta el gran emperador cae de su corcel. Que más allá de cicutas y apologías, me han dicho que hay que estar ciego para poder ver. Llevo en mi blasón odio y vanidad, frío bajo el sol, una eternidad, pero más allá, ¿dónde está el dolor? Busco sin saber una redención. Voy de camino a Damasco, en medio de la carretera. Voy despacito esperando a ver qué se me revela.
Here's to living a life of redemption. For more on Gregorio Uribe and his music, make sure to follow him on Instagram at Gregorio Uribe. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recast tonight and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor, and remember to fill out your census forms, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month.